Hello, this is What's Wrong with My Picture, a series of videos where I do reviews of work of up-and-coming artists, photographers who submit their work to me so I could do a review for you guys, and also hopefully that would be interesting for them as well to watch. So today's work is from Florencia Villa. She's a young photographer currently based in New York, and she has shot this quite interesting campaign, fashion campaign for also up-and-coming designer Livia Chen. And so we are going to start with this image, which I quite like, and I find it really interesting and appealing. So what makes it so visually appealing, I think, is the color palette that is sort of limited to very few colors, and also the tonal treatment in the image. So if you can notice that there are not so many blacks in the image, as well as not so many highlights. So the tonal range was kind of compressed to mainly the medium tones, and that made it look much more painterly. So if you look at her face, you will see that it's so matte, and the tone itself is very similar to actually the tone of the clothes and the tone of the background. And that's what I think mainly creates that painterly effect. It feels like she was painted or drawn over this one sort of canvas, that already had a color to it, and so it was just, painted over. So the same tonal treatment, the same color hue kind of goes over all the other elements in the picture. What I think is also done here quite successfully is the casting. I think the model here really works for what needs to be, talked about. So, for example, the red color in her sleeves and the elements of the clothes and her red hair, highlight the clothes very well. So the model actually brings out the qualities of the clothes, and also sends this message, what the story is about. So I think it's a really good casting, and her skin, the light tone skin with some freckles, and it brings the same texture, and it highlights what the clothes is about, like I said. So I like the composition in this picture a lot. I like how the frame is used actively. So she's cropped on top of her head, the bottom part of her body, the elbow here. She's kind of like, entering the frame from here. You can see the movement. If you follow the red elements, then you kind of look at the face, this little flyaways, which I really like. I think they complement the other movement here, and then you kind of go down towards this corner. So I really quite like how the shot is directed here, and I think also the elements like the earrings. So everything kind of complements each other, all the elements, and I actually quite like how how these freely folded elements are also creating the same sort of movement as her hair flyaways here. So I think this shot is quite successful. So let's take a look at the next shot from the same story. Also very quite active framing. So the crop is going through the head here, which is totally fine because it's a fashion campaign, so it's all about the clothes. But I really like the presence of the face here still, as opposed to just cropping it through the neck, for example, and just depriving the picture from the personality completely. I like the presence of the person here and the hint of the same hair. I would have probably fixed the hair here. It feels like it's just got caught on the back of the clothes, so I kind of want to loosen it up a bit to just let it fall more freely. It's a minor detail, but I think with everything executed so well here, I have to be nitpicking to tell you guys, to show you guys how it could be done even better than that. Let's take a look at the next shot. So here, I think we kind of, in a way, slightly lost that orange hue that we had in the hair here and in the first shot. I wish it was just a little more vivid, just to kind of continue with the same story of this really bright, freckly, fresh looking young woman. So I would like to see the same amount of saturation here in the hair, and maybe just a little bit brighter shot overall. Like here, it's so much softer. Like there's not so much shadow. It's looking quite flat, and that's the idea of this painterly look. But here there is much more shadow in this area, and I think the lighting here is not a problem. I think it's mainly the post-production, what happened afterwards. Yes, she turned away from the light, but that's still okay because the light is very soft. So yes, there's more shadow on the face and there's more shadow naturally happened because she just slightly turned. But again, that softness could have been achieved just in post-production and again brought up that orange hue out of the entire picture so it looks more consistent with this shot. Also, another element that I wanted to focus on here is the hair arrangement. So we started here and I said such a nice movement with this ginger locks of hair just flying away and kind of complementing this other soft movement, this kind of organic curves. Here, that same idea got taken slightly overboard. So either it had to be less of these elements, or maybe if you add just a little bit more movement, basically the wind in the hair by just using a cardboard or anything that will blow the wind, and maybe a small wind machine that hairstylists sometimes use. So just to blow it a little bit more away from the face to create just a little more movement, because right now what's happening here is very, very busy, and it becomes, because of this busyness and lines crossing each other, crossing the eye, crossing the eyebrow, it becomes very tense, and that's what we don't want to happen. We want lightness, we want softness, as we already know that this brand is about. So hair is a very, very important detail. Don't disregard it. And even if you are not working with a hairstylist, as a photographer, as an art director, you should be paying attention to these elements, that everything has to be in its place. And because it's so hard to fix the hair in Photoshop, better fix it right away as you are shooting it. Okay, let's take a look at the next one. This one, even though I really quite like the shot, and it's a beautiful beauty actually image, but I would like to see the same kind of treatment, the same kind of post-production as we had here. So I would really like to see that ginger hair, even though it seems like maybe as you are editing it, you need more highlights because it's a white clothing that she's wearing. I don't know if it's a short or a jacket, and you want to bring that brightness and those highlights. But again, you have to keep in mind that it's the same campaign. So if you're talking about the softness and this painterly look, you're losing it here. So if you wanted to, for example, keep these highlights quite strong, you can always create a mask just for the rest of the image and just bring that back, smoother, that flatter skin tone, the brighter ginger hair. And I actually quite like what has been done here with the hair. So this is a really quite nice movement, and is not so many hair strands as in the ones that I commented on previously. So I really quite like this movement that adds, this natural kind of organic movement in the hair, and so the shot looks a little bit less commercial, less posed. So I really quite like it. What I will do is just to clean up just this part, so that again this looks more softer, more singular pieces, that they don't overlap with this little fuzz. Again, nitpicking, but something when you are shooting fashion, or especially when you're shooting beauty and the hair is being seen up close, you need to really pay attention to it. And let's look at this last shot, which is again very kind of classic, very tight crop beauty shot. But the closer you get, the more things that are there to watch for. So see what happened here with the hair, for example. Let me turn on my notes. So this element is taken away from this earring. This element, I think either there has to be an earring, or maybe a smaller earring, or less of the hair. Like if you already have a long dangling earring, probably keep it clean here, because now it's all blending together and you're losing the details that your stylist probably carefully placed in there. Probably too many of these elements and overlapping and intersecting, too many things going on. So maybe keep some parts clean. And that also, the idea is to make it look natural, right? That's why we're making this flyaway, so it doesn't look too clean, too styled, so it looks too commercial, right? We want it to look a little bit more natural, more organic, and more appealing to the viewer. So, but when you put so many of this, that kind of creates already the opposite effect, like somebody tried too hard. And again, like maybe if it was a wide shot and if it was a full body shot, you wouldn't have noticed that. But because it's such a close-up, we can really clearly see what's going on. So be more organized, brush the eyebrows, carefully watch what's happening with the eyelashes here as well. Just a little bit messy perhaps, especially on this eye. And just to make sure they're all brushed and all, arranged nicely. And maybe a pop of color here, just a little bit more color in the lips. But again, if you open up the shadow and make it just a little more bright, as we had in the beginning, like in my favorite shot that I keep going back to, like if that hair was more orange, more bright, gingery here, that would have, brought up the life in the shot in general. But I think Florencia did a really good job, and in general it's such a beautiful campaign, and it's, all the colors are so amazing, how it's all styled together, and the casting of the model and the other elements that were used, and the choice of the background and the lighting. I think it worked all together really, really well. So now it's all just about cleaning up the details and being very, very careful with your art direction. So if you want to see more Florencia's work, you will find her Instagram and all the information about her team down below this video. Please like and subscribe. See what else she's up to. And if you like this review, please support me on Patreon. And if you'd like to submit more work, the email you can send your own work for the review is also down below the description here. Thank you for watching.